Welcome to Only Human, where we talk about human behavior and psychology from a layperson's point of view. And one of the things that I want to talk about today was the left versus right dynamic, which I believe is one of America's biggest problems right now for a lot of reasons. I noticed kind of an increase in this talk about left versus right, and it seems to correlate with like the 24-hour propaganda channels. And I call them propaganda channels, meaning like all of those 24-hour news channels, because news doesn't have a slant or an opinion. News is just like events, mostly current events. That's what news is. Anytime you inject your opinion or your thoughts on the matter, then it becomes commentary, like what you do as a late night talk show host. For them to have these channels with very clear and obvious slants and biases, that would fall under a commentary channel, because commenting on news topics like I said, the late night talk show hosts do. But anyway, I see it seems like as you see a rise in this type of talk in the media, you see the same rise in the population because we are heavily influenced by media. So it just seems like it's just getting. I'm hearing a lot more of this kind of talk, and it's becoming more and more emotions connected with the idea of politics. And it's mostly as it has to do with left versus right, and that's why I think that as far as having like the best person in the office of president, I don't think it's going to happen unless we get lucky, because like I said in the previous video, we aren't actually paying attention to each candidate's credentials or their abilities or their character. We're just kind of looking at things that matter a lot less. First and foremost, it seems that people focus on which side each candidate is on. And as far as how people end up associating with the left versus the right, I think if you ask most people, why are you conservative? And they may say, because my thoughts and opinions typically line up with that of the right. And same thing, they would say on the other side. But I don't think that's what happens. But I think what happens is we either fully or start to kind of lean towards one side or the other. And then we just kind of associate with that side. And then once that happens, you have opinions laid out for you on topics that you haven't even heard of or considered before. So, for instance, if I'm identifying as left and someone were to ask me what do I think about the new Scalibly Bobs, and I never heard of that. I don't know what the hell it is. And then at some point that I realized that the topic has been politicized, I'm going to default more than likely to my side's opinion and their talking points on the matter, on that topic. And a lot of times that's what's going to happen. You're going to associate with a side, and then when a topic that has become politicized is being discussed, you're more than likely going to default to the opinion of your side. Once we associate one side or the other, we're going to have a lot of our thoughts and opinions and ideas laid out for us. But also, one of the things that kind of made me see how ridiculous this was is during the campaign with Clinton versus Trump. And there was this whole thing about emails and grab them by the P. It was just really weird how only one side will talk about this thing, but this thing they wouldn't really address. It's like, but they would harp on this thing about the other person. And somehow these people over here would only talk about this thing about this person and would just ignore what was said about the candidate. Let's say, there's nothing to know about that. But what about this? And they only focused on the other person's thing or the other side's thing. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, are these damn emails an issue or not? Why would it matter what side you're on? Either they're an issue or they aren't. And Trump talking about grabbing them by the P, is that a problem or not? Like the fact that it didn't see this thing didn't seem to be an issue if it was associated with your side, but this other thing was only an issue if it was the other side. Like that's not at all rational. It's like I don't. That's telling me that we're not actually considering the information, the data that comes into our lives daily. We just kind of filter everything through an emotional lens. But anyway, that's what I want to say about that. Left versus right. I think it's getting ridiculous, and it's one of America's biggest problems. It keeps us from actually paying attention to things we need to pay attention to. There'll probably be a million different bills that are being proposed that if we knew about, we would probably be really upset about if we weren't just focusing on the hot topics. What's being discussed is what's being discussed. We don't really talk about or think about other important issues that will kind of affect all of our families that we should know about because we're too focused on what's being talked about and just repeating the words and talking points of our side. And most of the arguments being made are completely irrational. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. It's On the Human. See you next time.